you referred to the work that we did last year, the so-called Group of Five. So this is where SASB, the IARC, GRI, CDP, and CDSB, the Climate Disclosure Standards Board, came together, kind of with the silent partner of the TCFD. They weren't officially involved, with the guidance of WEF, the World Economic Foundation, and we started to visualize this comprehensive system of corporate reporting. We really started to get to a vision of what a future system of corporate reporting could look like, and especially how the different standards and frameworks complement one another, and how we can begin working towards simplification and harmonization, right? So one very important thing to remember, and this goes back to what I said at the very beginning, how different standards and frameworks grew up in response to the needs of different audiences. And that remains the case. That remains the fact is that different audiences have different needs in terms of information. So the GRI is a multi-stakeholder framework, set of standards. It's meant for various users with various objectives who really want to understand an enterprise's positive and negative contributions to sustainable development. SASB standards are investor focused, and they're for users with a very specific interest in understanding enterprise value. You know, Christian talked about the concept of double materiality. One of the things that a sort of development or expansion of that the Group of Five laid out was what we call nested materiality. And that is the notion that you have this large set, this universe of sustainability factors. So, and these are a company's impacts on society and environment. And then you've got SASB acting as a filter to identify the subset of those factors that have a material impact on the company. All right, so sometimes you think of it as one or the other, but nested materiality really very clearly shows that it's more a subset and that there's a tremendous overlap. So if you think, for example, the example of emissions that Christian mentioned, maybe there's no explicit cost in terms of something you can put on your income statement, but there is a cost in reputation, in license to operate, in local communities and ability to attract employees. There's so many costs that an investor would factor in beyond a simple, say, carbon tax or an actual line item like that. So again, SASB captures that subset. And what we laid out with the Group of Five was a vision for how these different pieces can work together, can be and complement one another. One of the key things that we're working toward, that we're focusing on, is what we call interoperability. So just this idea that really a company should be able to gather the data and analyze it once, and then report it through the right channels to the right audiences. So they shouldn't have to grapple with different metrics and definitions for really the same topics, say emissions or diversity or cybersecurity. There should be some agreed upon metrics and definitions. So that's one of the things that SASB and the GRI are working on. Now, the other thing that this work produced last year, very important, was what we called a prototype climate standard. We unveiled that at the end of November, beginning of December. And essentially what that is, it takes the different pieces, the different elements, including SASB, including the TCFD, very importantly, and constructs what a recognizable accounting standard. I call it TCFD plus. It takes the very elegant principles-based framework of the TCFD and it kind of colors in the lines, and it adds the industry-specific topics and metrics that SASB brings to it. So this is a very important piece of work that kind of maybe shows the path forward. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of how I see the alphabet soup, which is actually much simpler and more straightforward than maybe it's commonly perceived.